such as declare a war against Islam between America and Islam. Who in America is saying that? It's just quite stunning that you're absolutely right. Nothing new at all, and then a whole list of things we're not going to do. He didn't talk about what the ideology is of the people who executed these attacks. He didn't talk about jihadism. And then he talks about how we've got to restrict access to assault rifles. Is he aware of the fact that making pipe bombs in America is illegal? They made pipe bombs.
Yes.
How is legislation going to save us from the next attack? This was a moment that he could have, grasped the thorn and really declared war against the jihadism that is now on America's shores. And he didn't. He just simply didn't.
What would you have wanted to hear?
I want to hear a couple of things. The first thing is I want to hear what victory looks like. He never used the word victory, and he didn't talk about our enemies. We need to be honest. We need to take political correctness out of the threat assessment. Today, you can't talk about jihad if you're training law enforcement, federal law enforcement, or the military.
In other words, if I can just interrupt for a moment, that kind of language that was literally scrubbed from some of the manuals.
Right. In 2011, his White House decreed and sent letters to the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the then Attorney General that all training, all federal training, has to have any reference to religion scrubbed, which is like saying we're going to defeat the Nazis in 1944, but you're not allowed to use the word Nazi. That's what we've been struggling with now for 7 years. So let's get the politics out of the threat assessment, and let's have a look honestly at who the enemy is, and then take down their ideology. Not focus on weapons, but on taking down the message of jihad. That's what I would have loved to have heard.
You know, when the president said that this was a new kind of threat, isn't it the case that this has been a threat that we've known about for many years? I understand that the New York Police Department in 2007 issued a report on radicalization in the West and the homegrown threat. Is this really new?
Not at all. That's an excellent report. Your viewers should download it. It's the homegrown radicalization, the homegrown threat by the NYPD that some people try to get, deep sixed. It's been around for decades. It began really in 1979 with the creation of Al-Qaeda, then back the Arab Services Bureau. It's a function of the Iranian Revolution as well, if you look at Hezbollah. This has been around for decades. 9/11 was our wake-up call, and now we have it again. Remember, this is the most serious terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. This is a threat that has grown and grown and grown. And ISIS, Judge, ISIS is much more dangerous than Al-Qaeda for many, many reasons. Your viewers can check the report out that we did at threatknowledge.org. For reasons of finance, weapons, capabilities, far more dangerous to America than Al-Qaeda.
No question. But, Doctor, I want to ask you, 15 of the hijackers in the 9/11 attack were from Saudi Arabia. We know that Tashfeen Malik had a connection to Saudi Arabia. She had been there a few times. How does Saudi Arabia now play into this kind of narrative of this so-called new terrorism?
Yeah, well, Saudi's been an issue for decades. If your viewers really want to understand where modern jihad begins, it begins with the siege of Mecca in 1979. 300 jihadists took down and captured the holiest site in Islam. That's where it begins. As a result of that siege, a kind of devil's pact was reached between the House of Saud and some jihadi clerics that had sponsored that mission. And basically, elements of the Saudi elite have been sponsoring jihadi violence for decades. After 9/11, especially after some attacks in Saudi Arabia, they've reassessed their attitude, but it's a kind of half-pregnant situation where they'll condemn jihadism inside their country, but they really find it difficult to condemn internationally.
All right, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. And another person who wants to be president